everyone, Gaijin Goomba here. First of all, my deepest apologies for not putting out an episode in such a long time. But I've had GlitchCon and Consplosion back to back, as well as starting a new schedule with work. It's been crazy, but I'm ready to get back to doing what I do. During the last month, when I wasn't busy doing a panel, driving, or working, I've been playing the crap out of Pokemon Leaf Green. It's been an absolute blast getting back in touch with one of my favorite portable games. Not only has it re-established my interest for this franchise, but going back through, I've noticed so many more cultural references in the game. Instead of sitting around complaining about the Japanese names of Pokemon, I want to go through and talk about specific places, or even Pokemon themselves, that strongly represent Japanese culture. Really fast though, I want to acknowledge you, the viewers, for your stupendous responses for the last episode. So much great information was shared, and it truly did impress me how much you guys know. So, if you catch me talking about something you mentioned in a response, pat yourselves on the back. You deserve it. A Buddhist monk once told me, if a person wins an argument, he has learned nothing. In this case, I don't mind being wrong sometimes in my analysis. I welcome it because I try my very best to teach all of you something interesting about cultures and games, and I learn from you all as well. Okay, no more stalling, let's get going. First of all, I want to go back and revisit a few Pokemon I discussed in the last episode. If you recall, I had accused Charmander of having a very unoriginal Japanese name. Well, let me back up a little bit. One could look at Charmander's Japanese name, Hitokage, and realize that the name also literally means fire and lizard. While that still may not seem too original, it's a heck of a lot better than just lizard. Magikarp is another Pokemon I laid pretty hard into. People, including Hutch, told me that Magikarp and Gyarados come from a Chinese myth of a carp that swam up a river of a legendary mountain that housed what was called the Dragon's Gate. Upon swimming over this gate, the humble carp transformed into a mighty dragon. I've seen reference to actual names of the carp, river, and mountain. Some sources say the carp is called Looong, and the river is actually the Yellow River in Hunan. Some also say that there is more than one Dragon Gate, and other rivers and mountains such as the Wei River, Longxiu Mountains, and Xin in the Shaanxi province have them, but I leave that to legend. Judging from how much punishment Magikarp takes in order to become a full-fledged dragon Pokemon, this is actually a very inspired design. Having a Pokemon struggle to level, gaining vast power and might after such perseverance, I take back all the negative things I said about this humble yet interesting fish. In fact, I'ma go catch one. Something to quickly mention about Bulbasaur and its Japanese name, Fushigi-dane. When I was doing my research, I found a few sites, including Bulbapedia, that said the name could mean "it's strange, isn't it?" and "strange bulb." But I knew this was wrong. Bulb in Japanese is kyuke or kyukon, so I thought perhaps Bulbapedia was just straight up wrong. I didn't mention anything further in the last episode. However, upon further thinking, I realized that Fushigi-dane isn't mysterious bulb, it's mysterious seed. Seed in Japanese being tane. It all makes perfect sense now, and I wanted to forward that info to you guys. I did mention that Pikachu's name didn't change in the English translations. However, that sure as heck didn't stop you guys from drawing your own analysis over what the name actually means, so let's break it down. Pika Pika is actually an onomatopoeia to represent the sound or look of glitter and sparkling, while Chew is either the sound of a kiss or the sound of a mouse. Either way you decide to accept it, the name fits well considering the character design. Now, many of you have been asking me to cover other Generation Pokemon besides the first, so let me highlight Generation 4 Pokemon Chingling and Chimcho. I personally feel that Pokemon has been plagued with some really uninspired looking Pokemon designs as of late, but these two, for me personally, are off the hook just because of the culture behind them. Let's start with Chingling. Chingling is designed after a Suzu. These special bells are rung before praying at a Shinto shrine to awaken the kami of that particular shrine. The most notable of these bells comes from Tagata Jinja for, well, hopefully obvious reasons. Now, Chimcho doesn't have some massive backstory to its character design. In fact, it's quite humble. Their design comes from Furin wind chimes. These chimes are usually made from metal, glass, or certain ceramics. Going back to China, Japan actually imported the concept of this wind chime in the Edo period. The chime itself is believed to have the ability to disperse evil energies that hang or linger in the atmosphere of the area that's placed. These chimes are often seen in Japan during summer, and trust me, with over 100% humidity every day, and said humidity trapping heat during the night, those summers are evil. Did you ever notice in the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, it's just a maze of headstones? This isn't some cheap ploy to make you run around a maze. Japanese graveyards actually look like this. Some of them are even far more massive than what you see in the game. So why are they so big? Well, I think a large part has to do with the size of Japan's population and the importance of family. I know that seems strange, but just roll with me. When you have almost 128 million people living in a country roughly the size of California, you need to utilize the space that you have. As far as family goes, well, families will buy, often at a very high price, plots of land to be buried in. Grandparents, parents, children, all of them sharing the same plot. Speaking of locations in Pokemon, do you remember the game corner over in Celadon City? Did you ever think it was really weird you had to go to a next-door building to get your prizes? Well, this is no mere coincidence. This, my friends, is pachinko. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know what pachinko is, but do you really know what pachinko is? The game itself is sort of like pinball, except there's very little skill involved. Buy a bunch of steel balls, place them in a tray of a pachinko machine, and basically watch them fly up and around and hope they land in certain catch trays. This rewards you with more balls. Riveting, ain't it? The only skill in this game is that you can actually control how hard the ball launches, but everything else is luck. Now, getting back to the other building. After you finish getting all the balls that you can, you take said balls to the front counter of the parlor and exchange them for random items like candy bars or pencils or something. Bum deal? I think not, good sir. You then take those items to a nearby booth or small building and trade those items for cash. See, gambling is technically illegal in Japan, but this makes for a nice little loophole. One last thing I want to talk about involving Pokemon is Jinx. Yes, I understand MatPat spent 3 episodes harping on the issue, but there's something I desperately need to add to the analysis pot. Jinx's Japanese name is Rujura. Sounds like the French word rouge meaning red, or the word for a particular kind of makeup. What kinds of people did MatPat talk about that use tons of makeup? Yep, Ganguro girls. While I agree with MatPat's final analysis that Jinx is based off of Yamauba, I do not think it's purely coincidental that Jinx has what we understand to be blackface. But hear me out, and especially hear me out, all of my viewers of African descent. All that Japan understands about African or African American culture comes from media. When you consider this, is it really fair to say that Jinx or Ganguro girls are acting out of hateful racism? Cause I don't. Japanese in general who have never visited the US don't even have a clue when it comes to African Americans and the US's early years, let alone understand the travesties that went on when slavery was legal. What they know is what they've seen, and their media reflects that. I've met several Ganguro girls, and none of them were racist or even acted mildly hatefully. They're amazing, crazy, fun-having gals. They only emulate the appearance of being black because they idolize the look. This isn't racism, this is adoration. Big difference. If you see a white guy with a do-rag, sideways hat, bling, and sagging pants, do you think he's being racist? No! He's emulating African American subcultural norms. That's what these girls are doing, and honestly, I think that's what Jinx is doing, in part. So please everyone, don't look at this image and jump to conclusions based on what you understand in limited context. 9 times out of 10, there is a second side to these kinds of things. You know who is racist though? Freaking Wiz and Boomstick. You two experts think you understand Goombas and Koopa Troopas? You call Goombas pea-brains? Have you never played Paper Mario? If only there was a wise man of analysis and science who could come to my aid!
Oh, but there is, dear Goomba.